Hi, I'm Francois. In this video, we're taking a look at a techno track, 132 BPM in the style of Space 92, and this is what it sounds like. Here's a drop.
Overdrive engaged.
Okay, and we have a fully arranged track here, only using Ableton stock effects plus Serum, and we have an intro part. Small break part. And then this powerful drop with these stab sounds, and we have a break part here. And then we have this build up and drop we just listened to, and then we have a transition part here in the end. Where different synths are playing then in the drop part, and then there's an outro. Okay, and the sounds are grouped into these different groups here. We have kick and bass group, we have a drums group, a synths group, and some break, vox, and effects groups down here. So let's take a look at the kick and bass group. It's a techno track, most important one. Let's take a look inside here. So we have this pattern in the drop, and then later we have this pattern. So you can see first off, this upper bass is only playing those notes here in the back. Let's put it to 16th note so we can see what's up. Hold on, I'm going here. Below that, we have this bass sound. Simple offbeat on G sharp. And below that, we have the kick and rumble. You can see we have a shorter transient here for the kick, but we have the rumble right on the same track. So if I'm turning off this rumble effect rack, this is the actual kick sound that we are working with. And you know, it's run through a frequency shifter here and a pedal and this EQ. So what's on the group? We just have this washout reverb on the group that's being automated in at times, and this filter here that cuts out the low frequencies at times. So initial processing, we're bringing up the fine tuning or in the hertz of this kick, and then like this is to adjust it for the key of the track, and then we have the pedal behind it. Slightly mixing this emphasis, or you know, on the, like, where does it emphasize? More on the mids. So we're putting in 14% of this, and then we're cleaning up the signal here in the frequencies around 445. And emphasizing here on the click. Taking this out, we don't need this, you know, note information here, and then we're emphasizing on the click. And then behind that, we are taking this very signal and making a parallel chain with the dry signal here. And then a low and a mid rumble. And this is kind of clever processing here because basically you're saving a lot of tracks in Ableton. The project doesn't look as complex if you do it this way. Your effect chain does look a bit more complex though. So what's going on? We have to look at this low rumble here from the back to the front. And the first thing we want to maybe shape out is like this. We have this sidechain group here. So this shaper. And also we have, I'm quickly turning this off, remembering that this one was turned off already. And then we have this frequency shifter here, sort of moving the note or the frequency of the rumble. So this is what your frequency shifter can do for you. Let's keep some of the high frequencies for a second. And there's another EQ in the back. If I turn this off quickly, we are back at our construction site and we can hear the banging of this reverb. 2 seconds decay time, all the way up 100%. This is what the sound sounds like without the reverb, and it's getting this overdrive effect from this overdrive here. And this is basically our source sound again. If I'm comparing this, it's just a bit more quiet. Probably because of this utility. Yeah, this one brings it down 6 decibels. Okay, so we're taking the kick sample and we are putting it into this rumble low group. And what happens now? We have a bunch of audio effects on top of the sound. First of all, we have this saturator here and this drum bus slightly shaping the sound. So you can hear a bit more high frequencies on the click of the kick sample. Nothing too crazy. And now we are doing something crazy. We are throwing this overdrive on top. And then we're controlling the gain a little bit with this utility, bringing it back 6 decibels. And then this goes into the reverb. You know, we're building this new skyscraper and pedal on top of this sound. Turn off high frequencies and low frequencies below 50 or what is it, 40. And this is what's being left now. And we already moved, like we took a look at this frequency shifter. We're slightly moving the whole frequency down a bit. And then we are making sure the bass is mono, so we are not messing up any, low end phasing here. And then we sidechain the whole thing. And then there's just a whole bunch of utilities behind this. This one can be used to control the signal over time for arrangement purposes. And then here's another one doing pretty much the same thing. And then we are just making sure we have not too much high frequency information left. And this EQ8 controls the whole thing. So going back to our mid rumble. So we have this as well on top of the sound. Again, if we select these guys and turn them off, our dry signal one more time, And we are sending this one right into a reverb, which is 5 seconds long this time. Now we're in some train station and pedal on top of this. Horror movie in the train station, and now bass mono up to 500 hertz. So crazy, huh? Like when you reverse those things and you work backwards, it's like, how is this ever going to make sense? And we just like need all this stuff, all this crunch in the middle, and then we cut off everything else, and what we are left with is this. Some kind of pink white noise, whatever the hell is going on. And now we are sidechaining this with this auto pan here, set to phase 0, rate 1/4 or quarter note, and then amount of the sidechain here brought up to 31%. And can already bring it up like this. But in a production of this track, it happened stage-wise. So this one is the first stage, and then this envelope shaper here is doing the last stage of the sidechain. So leaving room for the click here, and then this will be occupied, this area, by our rumble, by our mid rumble. So because we're just listening to the mid rumble now, together with the low rumble, and together with the dry kick. Okay, and so this is what comes out of our kick group, out of our kick track. And now we are blending in this offbeat bass. On top. And because we don't have so much, we don't need so much low information here on this bass sound. We just need the note basically in the offbeat position. We already have the rumble down here. So we're cutting off everything here already below 100 hertz, more or less, making sure, stuff remains mono as much as needed. We are not in the lowest frequencies here, so it's not that crazy. We have a simple pulse wave here. Let's actually play that solo. Yeah. And a little bit of overdrive applied, and then we are like cutting off high frequencies and low frequencies, and then a bit more overdrive. But you know how much overdrive is going to be affected if we basically just have this band left. And then through the sidechain. Okay. And then on top of this, an even higher kind of bass sound here with, again, a saw wave with 3 voices and this square and saw mix with 2 voices. And envelope 2 controlling the filter here, making it more plucky. And then another auto, like this one is cutting out the low frequencies. This one is automating low frequencies. So you have low cuts, and with this one here, you can have high cuts over time. We are quickly activating our automation curves here. You can see that those guys are sometimes being automated up and down. Also in the transition parts here. And then we have another EQ that also gets automated in this transition section. So we are taking off some of the low end. And at some point it completely disappears because these curves are kind of intersecting. This one is going so low and this one so high that there's no signal left. Here we are cutting out some frequent parts, some resonant parts. And you might be wondering, what's this? What's going on here on the sound? Why are these moving down so heavily? So this has to do with our stabs. We have, you know, a stab, drop stab pattern here. It's doing this. Okay, and this one has somewhere on, I think, stab 1 or something. It has on stab 2 here. It has this envelope follower on this sound. And this one is being mapped. You know, it follows the envelope and it's being mapped onto this bass EQ here, onto the frequency 225 and the frequency 490 and 90 roughly. And it just, whenever the stab is playing, this drop stab is playing, it's bringing down the frequency of this bass sound because we are occupying the same frequency. And we're just making a little bit of room on the bass sound. So okay, so that's how this happens here on the bass sound. And I think this is pretty much everything sidechain behind it. So let's play it all together. Okay, let's go over to the next element. We are finished with kick and rumble and bass. And let's take a look at the drums part. We have this ride loop here. Nice offbeat ride, taking out the low frequencies again, and then an auto pan applied so it nicely moves in the panorama. And then a head loop. With a little bit of reverb on top. So we are sending this one into D reverb utility. So this group here with a 6-second decay time on this reverb. And it's also being sent into this kick reverb group here, but just ever so slightly. So it's getting a little bit of room basically. And then below that, we have this rolling hi-hat. Sounds like it has velocity differences between the sounds, but it doesn't have it in the MIDI. It has a little bit of random pan, so it's panning randomly from left to right. And also, it has a sidechain applied on top. And it has this parallel delay. And this one is being automated in over time here towards the end. You know, in the outro of the track. So rolling off low end information here on this one, and then also sending it through the, what's that, the 5th send effect. So it's this one. And through the 3rd one. It's the shorter, the room, like this kind of the early reflections of the room reverb here. Okay, so what else do we have in the drums? We have this clap sound. Clap sound sent through an overdrive harsh effect, creating more stereo. low end cutoff, delay on top, but just at times, depending on when it fits. Yeah, here at the end, we are bringing it up. Like the dry, wet, and the feedback. And 3 seconds of decay time on our reverb on this one. And what else do we have? We have these build-up drums. Let's listen into those. So a snare roll. For lazy guys, a snare roll as an audio. Filter going up. Low cut going up, creating the illusion of something like moving upwards. And below that, this snare roll. This one has this marching pattern, bum, 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 ba-dum, bum, bum, ba-dum, bum, bum. And then, you know, some notes in between, 16th notes in between that have a lower velocity. So we're emphasizing on the first and the fourth. And then below that, sixteenth notes, snare sound, but we have some random velocity applied here with this randomizer MIDI effect. So they don't all sound the same. And then again, you have this little effect chain here rolling off low end over time. It only does so every now and then. It actually doesn't really use this filter here in this track. It's probably copied over from a different track. Okay, snare 1. Where's this one? Right here in front of the drop. Pretty dry, heavy erosion on top. Nice. Pedal. Really carving out the mid frequencies of the sound, and then this is combined with the clap. With a nice texture on top. So everything.
Engaged. Overdrive engaged.
Okay, and we have another crash sound here. You know, simple crash sound at the beginning of the break. So these are our drum elements. Let's quickly organize it a bit. Drums close and take a look at the synth parts. So what do we have here? We have the synth group playing in the break part and then in the transition part. And we have this drop stab group playing in the drop part. So these upper elements here are playing whenever we are not really playing those drop stabs. And when those are playing, the other ones are being paused, more or less. This is our arrangement. So the arrangement has like 2 parts. It has intro, and then it has these drop parts. Again, the drop part and the outro. And in between, we have a third thing, which is kind of transitional parts or break. So let's take a look at the drop stab pattern. So we have these rolling synth patterns here, and how are they even positioned? You know, it's not 32 notes. It's kind of it's okay. It's not. It was set to triplet grid. Now it's actually 32 notes, and then the remaining ones are 16th notes. So that's our pattern here, and we are working with the first one. Nice, crunchy, wide, higher frequent sounds sent through the OTT. Yeah, this is a superb sound. It's a mixture of a saw wave and a sine wave here, and then a sine wave on top. And envelope 1 also controls the filter cutoff here on this MG low 18. Bit of distortion on top. And bit of chorus. But nothing life-changing. And then we have this higher frequency emphasized here through the EQ. And that's it for this first part of the sound. Let's look at the second one. Okay, so this one is more gnarly. It has this dirty saw wave here in an octave lower than a default with 2 voices. And this one is also applied slightly, a saw wave here with 2 voices. And this time the filter is controlled by envelope number 2 with a decay time of 203 milliseconds and a short attack time, sustain all the way down. Again, we have a chorus effect on our signal. And this time we have already the multi-band compression happening in Serum here with the compressor set to a mix of, what is that, 67? And then the signal is being picked up, sent through this envelope follower into our bass group to make sure this one ducks when this signal is playing. And then we are cutting out the bass frequencies and adding in a little bit of drum bus drive on the sound. You know, makes it a bit stronger. It's a mixing thing. If you listen to the full track then in the mix and you have a feeling, well, this one needs a little bit more, but you don't know which frequency to boost, you can also try messing around with the drum bus and just giving it ever so slightly wet. And then we have overdrive behind that. Emphasizing on the high frequencies here. And then we are cleaning up with EQ 8 behind it. Taking out this frequency. And the last element of the sound. This is more like the Afterlife kind of stab sound. And it has a bit more, it sounds a bit more metallic. It has this bright white noise on top, and then it has these 7 voices in the oscillator B. Decay time 180 roughly, and we are sending it through the distortion here. And it starts sounding kind of transparent through these voices here. So if I'm taking this down, if I'm turning off the noise, yeah, the noise really adds that crispy top. also being sent through the filter here. So noise is activated, also goes through this 18 decibels per octave low pass filter. And then saturation on top, heavily applied. Let's turn them all off quickly. So this is basically something, what I just exaggerated is something we are mixing in ever so slightly to give a bit more crunch on top. And then we are removing low end and focusing a bit more on the mid frequencies of the sound. All together. And now they're still getting some extra treatment on the group here. And so everything is getting treated here on the group effects with a slapback delay in the beginning. But just slightly applied. I think this OTT here is more heavily applied. And it's automated. It's automated towards the end of 2 bars. And then cleaning up with this EQ, we have a drum bus behind that. Adding in crunch, and then we have this redux here, which adds in the jitter. And it, if we quickly look at this, where does it add it in? Or when does it move up here towards the end of 16 bars? Nice and gnarly sound. And then setting the bass to mono just to be sure after the effect. And then this reverb applied in parallel mode here. So listen to the reverb signal. You know, it's waiting for the signal to be finished because it's taking the audio input from the drop stab 1 itself, and then it applies the reverb on the remaining part of the track, of the sound. It's like nicely fills up the frequency spectrum here without messing up the sound. So this is super important. All right, let's take a look at the delay sound. It has the same logic here. So we're adding in this analog collapse delay, and we are cleaning up the low end and the high end, and we are sidechaining this to drop stab 2. So again, taking the input signal, leaving room, and whenever that is finished, we are adding in this delay. Okay, behind this, we have this EQ here, which is like, you know, heavily applied. It's a mixing thing here, how to get it sit right in the mix. If we turn that off, so this is what an EQ looks like when you match it to a reference track. You know, there's like, okay, we need a lot more high frequencies, a lot less of these frequencies. So -5. You first get the anatomy of the sound right, and then you're trying to balance it right to your reference track. This is like, if you're producing forward, you might not necessarily work this way, but it's still interesting from a sound design perspective. And then the whole signal goes into this sidechain here, which is sidechained to the kick sound. Okay, let's play it all together. So what was this? Short stab sound in the beginning here, just playing this note. You know, that's just a saw wave with a couple of voices and an acid table mixed in. You know, we just need some wide sound in the higher frequencies, cut out the low, and then give it some kind of room here. So this is basically what this processing chain is dealing with. Again, overdrive, utility, you know, and redox applied, and what else? Erosion to give it this, you know, noisy feel. So if I'm taking off this group effect, I have a lot of noise also on this sound. I forgot that. So a bright white. We're not filtering anything here. So we are taking this into the overdrive. And then later we are using these, this EQ. Oh no, which one is filtering the whole thing? Here, this one. This auto filter is filtering the high frequencies. That's also a nice sound. It's a nice short stab sound that's super powerful and wide. Gives a nice question and answer pattern also with the drop stab. So let's move over. What do we have here? We have this arpeggio sound. Sixteenth notes somehow sound with a longer attack time here. Or a lot of resonance. Set to mono. So we are cutting off low frequencies here, then we are filtering this up over time, and then we have a reverb behind it. And here in this effects section in Serum, we are just adding in a little bit of detuning and a little bit of chorus on the sound. On top of that, we have this pad sound. Minor chord, and you know, the sound is really not that important. In this case, we are playing 8 voices of a saw wave here and doing the same thing again with the second oscillator, which is a much quieter, and then cutting off low frequencies, just emphasizing on this mid part here. But it does have a lot of reverb. Where does that come from? It's not here. We have just a chorus applied here. So we are probably sending it through the, yeah, we're sending it into the reverb here on this channel. Yeah, and we are bringing up some filters being brought up here. This one. So this auto filter is going up. And what else? We have this 303 sound here on this track. So let's listen into that one. Okay, so this is a acid wave in Serum. It's always a nice wave if you want to, wavetable, if you want to achieve this 303 type sound. 6 voices, 3 voices. Oops. And, you know, the wavetable position is being automated as well. And the filter is also being automated here. So this is important. Otherwise, you don't get this effect if you don't automate the wavetable position. Here with envelope number 2 in this case, wavetable position 1. And 2. And then some saturation on top and overdrive on, well, just slightly applied here. Overdrive, saturation more applied. This one really pushes up the sound, and then we're rolling off low end, cleaning up the sound and adding a little bit of erosion. Wide noise. And then focusing on the mid frequency here. So really make it stand out of the bassy parts that we are cutting out here. Making sure any bass left over is in mono. And then some drum bus processing applied. Beefing up the sound. And then we're sending it through a reverb with 4.5 seconds decay time. And it's just ever so slightly applied, 5% here. And this is our filter that moves around. Which one is it? Show automation. This one moves up over time. And then a sidechain behind that. And now we could also hear some other elements in the break part that are hidden in this break group here. And we have this bass sound, so sustained bass. So this is our synths part in the break. So let's start with this lead sound here, maybe. And we have this sound in Serum, saw rounded. And you could be wondering, say, where are all these notes coming from? Wasn't that note sustained? So you have LFO1 here controlling the filter. And you can see this macro here called rate is controlling the rate of LFO number 1. So LFO 1, the rate here is controlled by our rate knob. So sometimes, and this one is being automated down here in the arrangement view of Ableton. And sometimes we're playing faster and sometimes we're playing slower. So let's listen in. So this is how the whole thing is being set up. And then we are running this through the saturator, through the overdrive, through a quick compressor here. Gluing it together. And then we have this analog collapse echo. Dotted quarters. Saturation behind it. And then we have this audio effect with a reverb here, and we are adding in 3 seconds of decay time. Okay, and then cleaning up the low end and the higher frequencies, and then removing some resonant frequencies in the second EQ8 here, just like you could also do that in one EQ8 instance, but it's sometimes easier to understand what you did if you're using 2. So removing those lower frequencies of our note here. Okay, so this is the break lead part, the break lead bass sound. So around it, 5 voices. We have a sub oscillator also playing here, a sine wave. We have a noise on top, and we have this second oscillator or oscillator B playing at 3 octaves down. And we're controlling this rate here with our automation curve. So it's sometimes a bit, there's more LFO applied on it and sometimes less. And then the cutoff is being automated. The reverb, so the wet of this reverb here is also being automated. Controlling this mix knob here, and low oscillator is also being automated. So this one is controlling the level of oscillator B. And you can see the automation curve here. So in the break part, we have it active, and in the build-up part, it's deactivated, and in the ARPS part here, it's also deactivated. Let's look at this dirty audio effect here quickly. What is this one doing? It's adding a redux on top, and it's starting to do so here in the beginning of the break. It brings it in. it's like these higher frequencies. Higher mids are being carved out with this one. And then we have a mid-side EQ here, taking out the low end in the mids and keeping it on the sides. And another EQ where we are using this one to control the sub-frequencies towards the end of our build-up part here. So removing low end. And then erosion on top. So you see there's a lot of stuff going on. Like it's a bit beyond the scope of this video to go through everything that's happening here. This is like half an afternoon of tweaking and then listening back and forth how you like it. There's basically no rules here. You can like put in more white noise or less. You just want to have nice tension build up in your break part, in your build-up, you know, that can be released when you drop with your drop part. So the filter here also goes up over time, especially here in the beginning. And again, there's a low cut that's being added in and taken out. So in the beginning here, we are keeping out the low frequencies, and then hold on here. We are not cutting them out with this EQ. We are leaving in a bit more low frequency information. Okay, so this is the break bass part. And then we have this build-up synth that does octaves. Also building up tension. So saw around it 2 times. And what's interesting about this one is that we are moving up in the frequency of this notch filter. To sort of support the fact that we have this pitch riser I think in our effects section here. So if we go into the effects section, we have this riser thing. Where we're automating the pitch bend, and it's this sound here. And our pitch bend wheel is set to, or pitch wheel is set to -12 decibel, -12 semitones and +12 semitones. So we have a range of 2 octaves where we can pitch up. And we are doing so with 16 voices of this saw wave here. So super wide sound, and then we are making it even more crunchy with this overdrive and then sending that through this reverb here. And then on top of that, we're adding in white noise. And we're using Serum in this case with the noise section here, just adding in some white noise and automating it over time in the filter. And what else do we have? We have this sub drop. Oh yeah, that's the pre-drop section here. And then we have this noise. And combined with this sub drop, there's just a long envelope here that decays for 3.5 seconds. Kind of like an 808. And then we have this, what's that? Long sustained bass that opens up. Somewhere there must be a filter. Yeah. And we have this LFO noise here.
Overdrive engaged.
Yeah, and here we have this quick vocals group, a reversed shout. Whoa. And then
Overdrive engaged. Overdrive engaged. Overdrive engaged. Overdrive engaged.
Just an AI voice used.
Overdrive engaged.
And on the voices, we have a bit of OTT and overdrive processing. You can take a look at that in detail if you use the project file, but it's a slapback delay. It's, low cut and high cut. It's overdrive added in Redux, added in, again, carving out whatever we introduced after adding those in. And then OTT on top, again, cleaning up, compressing the signal, and then adding a little bit of reverb. And the same is being done for the other vocal as well. So in the effects section, we still have this groove loop. And the second one. And this Atmo. And so these combined sort of fill up your track, fill up your frequency spectrum, and easily said, make it sound more professional. Like, let's A/B this quickly, because here in this section in the intro, they're all present. Just have a little more, atmosphere and groove and information to work with, and it just sounds more pleasant. You don't have to mix this in very loudly. It just has to, occupy a bunch of frequencies here in the middle and properly sidechain that, and then also in the higher frequencies. So they really make a big difference. These types of elements will really help you, get that extra final layer on top of your track. And, comparing to other industry standard type tracks, these elements take you closer, especially in those parts where not too much is happening yet. For example, here in the break part, we are taking these loops out. We don't need them there. We can just like use a little bit of this Atmo in the background. You know, like a drone in melodic house, this is your drone. In techno, it needs to be more atonal or no real harmonics implied. And it kind of creates the feeling of this industrial construction site or something. Yeah, and we have a bunch more background effects here. But overall, this is the gist of the track. I'm actually setting this back to equal height here and closing the effects group. Like there's a lot of little effects in the effects group, but like we went through the main elements and took a look at how it's put together and also how it's structured arrangement wise. We have the intro, we have a little break part here, and we have full on drop, building it up, bringing in, you know, the second bass part a bit later. And then we have this very melodic break part and then building it up into this super powerful drop part here at around 350, where everything is becoming completely dry for a second.
Overdrive engaged.
Massive drop, then slightly bringing drum elements back in, bringing some arpeggio and stab elements back into the transition, and then we have our outro part here. So nice techno arrangement for the club. And I'm pretty much through with this breakdown here. I will play a part of the track after this, but thank you so much so far for your attention and for your time, and I'll speak to you soon.
Overdrive engaged.